Hello, teacher friends. My name is Tanya, the Butterfly Teacher. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. I hope that you will consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video. Today's video, I am going to be talking about a new book recommendation. If you've spent any time on my site, thebutterflyteacher.com, I do a lot of book recommendations. I love to read. As a teacher, a language arts teacher, I'm constantly reviewing novel studies, read alouds, picture books for kids. And today's video, this new book, I am so excited to introduce this book to all my teacher friends, to parents, really to everybody. Say it with me. It is by an author, Nancy Torres. And not only am I going to talk about this book today, but Nancy was kind enough to join me for an interview. So we're going to talk about the book. She's going to share her thoughts as the author. Super excited for this. So let me tell you a little bit about Nancy, a little bit about the book, and then we'll jump into the interview. Oh yeah, by the way, did I tell you? I'm giving this away for free. So Nancy is Ecuadorian American, but she was raised in Queens. She also has a background in education, in special education, actually. She was a second grade teacher. I believe she still is a second grade teacher, which that's the grade level I taught before moving to fourth grade. So that's a special connection there because I loved being a second grade teacher. She wrote this bilingual book, which I think is amazing that the book is bilingual. In fact, let me just show you really quickly. Not only is it like it has the English and Spanish side by side, but the illustrations are just beautiful. And we're going to talk about that in the interview, why she felt it was important to make this bilingual. And because I just mentioned the illustrations, Zoe Black is the illustrator. Zoe, bravo. This is a gorgeous book that celebrates diversity, but teaches children the power of their words through affirmations. And Nancy wants to help other teachers and parents to use affirmations for not just social emotional learning, but every part of learning. In the giveaway that Nancy is sponsoring for today's video, it includes a beautiful bookmark with an affirmation. Say it with me. I am perfectly and wonderfully made. Let me stop babbling and let me introduce you to Nancy Torres. Okay, so I think everything is a go. Okay, so nice to meet you, Nancy. Oh my goodness, this is an honor to have you here. The Butterfly Teacher Tribe is going to be so excited about this. Say it with me. I'm so
Tanya,
excited to
thank
talk
you
to you.
so much. Tanya, thank you so much for having me. It is a real honor and an amazing, amazing opportunity to be with you and to
Thank
be connecting with you finally.
Absolutely. So I want to dive right in because I have fallen in love with this book as a teacher, as a mom. I believe in doing affirmations with kids. So I want to ask you about the inspiration behind this, your affirmations with your son. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the inspiration for it was I didn't learn affirmations until I was like in my 30s. And once I began to, it was a really game changing tool for me. I struggled with, being insecure, low self confidence. And once I learned this tool, it really changed my life. And so I was like, why haven't I learned this? Why didn't we like talk about this? And so when I became a mom, so I began to teach it to my students. So whatever I was learning in my like self personal development, I would teach it to my class. And then when I became a mom, before becoming a mom, I was on top of the world, confidence wise, personal development wise, I was on it. But becoming a mom changes you, it
Yes.
changed me.
Yes.
and I like needed the tools all over again. I was like, I had felt like I was, my second, third year of college. I was now back to the prerequisite level of affirmations and personal development.
Yes.
And so I wanted to consciously teach Sebastian and raise him knowing all of this. Like he should know, like, we brush our teeth, we say our affirmations, we take a few minutes to breathe and just to get ourselves centered. But it was also because I also needed them. I also
Mm.
needed to know, I'm a good mom, I am smart, I can do, all these things. And so I took a book writing class, and I always thought my first book would be a memoir of sorts or an adult book. And then, the idea of a children's book, and I was like, I can do this.
Yes.
And it just evolved into, it went from being a board book and to a picture book to this book. And it was this beautiful, and it's actually the perfect first book because it was one of the most powerful tools that I needed.
Mhm.
I wish I had had as a child.
And perfect timing to me with the rough year. The
Mhm.
mental health of students has really come to the forefront, even though it has been an issue, under the radar for a while. But
Mhm.
now, more so, adults, teachers, parents are starting to see the importance of affirmations, positive, structured routines for kids at home and at school. So that's why it hit me even more. This book is so needed right now. Um,
Right.
and you made it bilingual, which also resonates with me. Can you talk about why you wanted to make a bilingual children's book?
Yes. So it being bilingual was, a almost a non-negotiable. I came to this country when I was 6 months old with my parents, and so we didn't speak English. It was very, very limited for my father, and I learned English along with Sesame Street and my parents in school, and all that. And so I just, the- carrying on speaking both English and Spanish is super important for me.
Mm.
And reading the books to my son, we have books in English, we have books in Spanish, but my favorite books were the ones that had the text on the same page that were English and Spanish because
Yes.
it was like, he could really understand the translation and it was there.
Yep.
Um, and understanding, being able to identify the different sounds, like, okay, this is English, this is Spanish. It just like helps. And so when I was writing the book, I said, oh, I definitely want to make it accessible. Um, Now, here's what's really wild about it is I want it accessible for the children, for little Nancy,
Mhm.
right? For, when little Nancy and her parents, and she's learning, and her parents are learning English, and they want to also understand it in Spanish. Now, fast forward, almost 40 years later, my son is 3. It's a it's perfect for him because I'm now teaching him Spanish.
That's
And
so
so it
good.
makes it accessible for people who are only monolingual and who only speak English and who are want to just maybe dip their toes in a second language, maybe just introduce Spanish somewhat,
Yes.
you know, or like me who are want to raise their child bilingual. And my husband doesn't speak Spanish, and so it's an accessible book for him to also be like, oh, okay, I'm understanding. And it's very simple phrases, but still gets the message of that social emotional tool of affirmations. So that was super important for me for it to be bilingual.
And I am not fluent in Spanish. As I was reading through this myself, my teacher brain was, thinking, how could I use this in the classroom as a teacher? I love read alouds for all grade levels. And I thought it would be so cool for me to read the English portion and to invite a student who's comfortable to read the Spanish
Mhm.
portion. Or, just to get kids involved in interactive read alouds. How affirming that would be. Like, wow, I get to read this book right along with my teacher, and how comfortable that would be possibly for certain students. So that kept the brain wheels going of, well, let me ask Nancy for ideas that she would use as a teacher. Like, how would you use affirmations in the classroom? How would you use this book in your classroom?
So the way I used it, so I love post-its. I have like post-its with me all the time. And I think it's just part of our like, hi, I'm Miss So and so, and here are my
Yes,
post-its.
I know,
Right. And
an
so
addiction.
Right, exactly, exactly, and they have to be brightly colored depending on the vibe, right? And
Oh,
so,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
and so the way I used it this year and with this book as well is I would have the students choose, or I would choose the affirmation. So the way I literally did it this year is we did I am special.
Oh,
And so every child wrote on their post-its, I am special, put it on their desk. And so when they walked
mm,
in the morning, good morning, Miss Torres, good morning, so and so. And then they would have to say their affirmation to
good.
themselves once they unpacked, and they would say, I am special. And that is how they each student began their day. And we would say it together as a class. And so I would say, there's a beautiful teacher's guide at the back,
Yes.
how to use it. You can use it at any time. You can use it before a test, right? You can say, hey, you know what? The affirmation that really is calling to me right now is I am smart. You
Mm,
know, and you say that before you take the test, and you say it as a class, say it, once, say it twice, and say it in your big, powerful, say it with me voice.
yes.
I am smart. And then I am smart. All right, go get started on your
Right.
test. And so it just depends. It depends, if there's two friends in class who are going through it, who don't feel confident, or who someone maybe made fun of someone, because
Mm,
kids do that. And
yes.
then you can just pull them along and say, you know what, I want us to read this one page where it says, I am perfectly and wonderfully made. And who cares what so and so said? Because say it with me, I am perfectly and wonderfully made. And then that becomes that student's affirmation for the week. You post it on, you can put it inside their journal notebook, and their journal, I use a regular black and white notebook. And you can put it inside their journal, and that is their own personal affirmation that they, are being called to practice.
I I mean, like, all of what you're saying is just, I know I'm shaking my head like, "Amen. Yes, yes, yes." Because I've never felt like social emotional learning is some separate unit or like a bulletin board activity. Like, to me, it is and should
In
be
it.
inclusive
Yeah.
in everything we do with kids. Like, even the what you just quoted, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am perfectly and wonderfully made. Putting it on a bookmark like this, that is so genius because that's a part of their everyday routine. They get to see it. I am perfectly and wonderfully made. Say it with me. And I just love that. Like, it's simple but powerful. Because
Exactly.
words matter.
Words matter. And the simplicity of it is what makes it so easy to do, and makes it like, oh, I can do this. I
Yeah.
can do this. I can do this when we're walking down the hall to the cafeteria. I am special. I am perfect inside and out. I am beautiful inside and out. I have a beautiful heart. I am smart. Whatever it is. And this is something that you can do, like I said, walking from, gym to computers in your classroom. Maybe this is your homework assignment. How do you feel after you say this? Maybe, and I do a lot of fun homeworks where I'm like, have a dance party with your family. And I'm like, did you do it?
That's so good.
You know what I mean? And I'll be like, okay, like, please say it with me at dinner. Which affirmation did you choose?
So good.
So
That's
they
so
begin
great.
to own it. They begin to own it. And, make it as silly. I have a 3-year-old. So with my son, we start off with, I am a dinosaur, roar, and we roar, and that's how you got to find your entryway,
Yeah.
right?
That's
On
so
stage.
and as
So,
they hear that language for themselves, it affirms it as they talk to each other because you hear so much negativity and mean spiritedness, or you read it on social media. But as they are hearing this positive, affirming language in the classroom and at home, then they repeat it back to their friends like, no, you're not dumb. You're smart. You can do this. You're
yes.
capable. I've seen that in the classroom as a teacher when a student is starting to kind of get down on themselves, then their friends will chime in. No, no, no. You're great at this, man. What are you talking about? You're awesome at this. You got this. Like,
Yes.
now you're fostering this environment of positivity, inclusion, acceptance. The teachers need that. I need to hear that sometimes. I need to hear that. Miss Marshall, you can do it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Totally.
Oh
Totally.
my goodness. Well, I want to thank you, first of all, for offering an autographed copy of the book for me to give away to my audience. I'm so excited. I'm going to talk about the details of how they can win this book because I think everybody should have this book in their
Aw.
classroom this year.
Mhm.
Well, how can we find out more about you? Where can we go to purchase the book and learn more about you?
Sure. So my website is iamnancytorres.com. You can go on Instagram. The links are on my bio at I am Nancy Torres. You can purchase the book at Wheat Penny Press, and that way you can get the hard copy. And I think it's such a great organization. You can read more about it, and you can also purchase it on Amazon as well. Um, and yeah, follow me on Instagram so we can, go over more ideas for lessons, how to use the book, and also just like we were talking about, just practicing that dual language.
Yes.
It's a beautiful introduction for that.
Well, I'm also going to include all of those links that you just mentioned in the description below and also promote it as well on my Instagram so that my audience can find out more about not only the book, but how to use affirmations for social emotional learning in the classroom, for everyday use at home as a parent, grandparent, anyone who has a child, anyone, period. I think adults
Right.
need
Like
this too.
myself, I need to go put one right now in my mirror.
Exactly. Yes. This bookmark is going in my book.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to buy my son his own copy. That's going in mine. I can't thank you enough for the book, for this interview today. I so appreciate it. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for us to further connect. Well, have a wonderful summer.
Thank you.
Enjoy it. And we will be for sure in touch again.
Same. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Snaps, snaps to Nancy. That interview. Wow. How amazing. Hearing her thoughts as the author, sharing her ideas with other teachers, how you can use affirmations with kids at home, with kids in the classroom, and for yourself as an adult. We all need these affirmations, especially after a tough school year for teachers and students and a tough year, period, for parents, for families, for humans. Okay. So let me talk about this book. Even though Nancy wrote it with the age range of about 1 to 10, I actually think as a teacher that the message resonates with people across age groups. So, teacher friends, homeschooling parents, in the description below, I have the steps for what you need to do to win this book. And someone, a teacher, a homeschooling parent, is going to win not only the book, but the bookmark that goes with it. And the giveaway is going to run for just a few days to give everybody a chance to enter. So would you please share this video out, and make sure to go check out Nancy on her Instagram, on her website. As I mentioned in the interview, the links for all of her information is in the description also. I am so excited to give this away to someone and to share this message with all of you. Thank you for joining me in this video and interview today. Have a wonderful day. You are wonderful. You are loved, and I thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed today's content, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.